What's the future of the web like? What should we be learning now for?
Keeping a close eye on all the sort of it's very much sort of user content driven. You'll be using it already. You'll be on MySpace. You'll be on Facebook. You'll be using YouTube like every other day. Do you know what I mean? All that sort of stuff. It's kind of like where it's at the moment. It's very much sort of kind of the user taking back control of the web. Do you know what I mean? Like all the content's out there, creating it themselves now, and kind of policing it themselves, and all that sort of stuff. I wish I could actually tell what was going to be next, because then I would go build it and I wouldn't be here. I'd be on the beach somewhere, getting a tan. But yeah, it's like that's kind of like very much the way it's going. But very much sort of obviously with all the sort of like broadband connections and all the faster internet and the stuff we've got now. It's very much sort of rich media. So it's like video, it's like interactive stuff. Do you know what I mean? Much more sort of like there's a lot more to it than just sort of like simple websites, as it were. And also things like bringing it down onto like your phone and onto your iPod and all that sort of stuff as well. It's like all the sort of taking it away with you, like podcasts and the like. Do you know what I mean? All that sort of stuff as well. So it's kind of like more of a broad range. So what I would say is probably like kind of like look at everything on a whole in regards to sort of like where you kind of want to go with it, and find out. It might be worth either finding out something that really appeals to you, and maybe sort of like going that way sort of a lot stronger than somewhere else, and try and maybe get more specialising in that. Do you know what I mean? So then you can maybe take that on to finding a position that's maybe more to do with like I don't know, maybe it's like video side of it you're actually like, and you go from the multimedia through to that, sort of focus more on that. But certainly start off and try and sort of have a look at a bit of everything, keep your skills quite broad, because there's so much different stuff to learn from now. Like when I first started, and I'm kind of lucky in the position now that I kind of do, I used to have to build the websites myself, like the HTML and all the sort of front end, and these sort of more complex back end like scripting like PHP and HTTP, all that stuff, and get a developer to do. Now I don't even build it the front end anymore, I design it and pass it on to a developer and he does it. But I see students and people who I work with coming through all the time now who can do all of that as well. Do you know what I mean? They've got so much more broad sort of skills than I have. I'm kind of more focused on the actual sort of design side of it, information architects, and also the print and the identity side, sort of more the creative process, if you like. Whereas they can like do that, they can then do, I can do flash animation, I can do visually most of the stuff in here, but the back end of it I probably couldn't do. It's all ActionScript, and my designer does all that, and it's like a different language to me. But I've kind of like missed the boat on that one a little bit. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't really have the head to get around it, but if you want to sort of get into that, you kind of have to learn all that stuff as well. So even though you might want to sort of like aim in one sort of route, it's kind of good to have a finger in a lot of different pies and a lot of different skills, because the more sort of skills you have, the better it is. I still look at like job adverts all the time, and there'll be like ones for, especially ones like multimedia designers. It's like they've got to be able to do like Photoshop, Flash, Illustrator, freehand, whatever. But then also ActionScript and a little bit this and a little bit that, and I'm like, whoa! It's like, how much stuff do you want? So the more sort of skills you can get as well, the better, because obviously people want someone who can do a bit of everything nowadays as well. On the side of that though, go back and make sure that the design sort of comes through from it. The thing that really annoys me is that people say like, oh, I want to be a web designer, I want to be this designer, that designer. It all comes from design. Do you know what I mean? There's key fundamental design stuff that starts it all off, like layout and colour and typography. Do you know what I mean? And like illustration, all that sort of stuff, which is like that's the key for everything. Everything else on top of that's just like knowledge. Do you know what I mean? That's like you learn how to make something in Flash. You learn how to line something up in Photoshop. It's, you know what I mean? Do that stuff like on your own time. It's not a problem. But make sure you learn the sort of key fundamentals of design as well, because that's what will make your stuff look good. The idea and the creativity behind it and the actual execution of it. Whereas the actual knowing how to build it. Do you know what I mean? That's pretty much anyone can do that. You go online and people like, oh, I want to be a website. I'll learn HTML and learn PHP and all that. Learn how to design, and then, do you know what I mean? Get all the sort of good stuff to go with it. And work that as a package together. I'm a high horse now. Yes. Yes, mate.
You mentioned you use content management systems. Are they third party or are they developed in-house?
We actually, a lot of companies do use third party ones. We actually do ours bespoke. Although, as you can imagine, we don't build it from ground up every time. We have like a sort of a key, sort of basic one that we use, and then we kind of like add modules on to that. It's very much more the sort of development side of it, and all the kind of technical coding guys who sit in the corner and do their stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with using a third party thing. It depends on the client's needs and what they want. If you can find a system that does that for a few dollars offline that you can buy and use, and then design the front end for it and give that to the client, and it does everything they want it to do, then fine. All you might find though is in the future that they might come back and say, oh, well, actually we need to do this now as well, and then you kind of go, don't know how to do that because it's not my thing. So there's pluses and minuses to each of it. Do you know what I mean? I think there's probably a lot of companies out there who will do sort of website solutions that are a lot sort of cheaper and sort of more off the shelf sort of stuff by using stuff like that, and that's fine. But the sort of clients that we do, like like Darlington College, for example, like every week they turn around and say, "Oh, we've got this new system that you want us to create," and that if we use an off the shelf one, that would be quite constraining for us. So we sort of build it from scratch. But that's much more sort of development back end stuff. It's not really my forte. So.
Because you mentioned therefore how many people you have worked for. You have been up to Oxford, Newcastle, and things, so I've seen that these guys might be thinking you're sitting there building a small company. How many people actually work there?
In my company, there's 12 people in my company at the moment. There's myself, I have a designer who's next to me, who's kind of more multimedia based, who does all this kind of stuff. But he also does quite good print stuff. We've got 2 account managers, which is something that we pulled in the last couple of years to basically stop like too much of myself and the developers having to go out to meet the clients all the time. So we've got people who will just deal with the clients and sort of have that client relationship. So they just end the phone when they want something, and it's a lot more sort of productive for ourselves. And then the rest of them, we have 2 directors. One of them's over in Singapore, and we have a managing director who should be here now, but she's in a board meeting. I'm sure she should be here any minute. And the rest of the team is basically been of developers. So there's quite an interesting ratio there of we've had our other designer for about 7 months now. Before that, we've had about 6 developers just to myself doing pretty much all the design. So as I was saying before, they've got like a turnaround time of, depending on the size of the project, like weeks and months to build these websites. But whereas obviously to design it, I'm given like a couple of days to actually do the interfaces, do the graphics to go with it, and any bits and bobs they might need along the way. So I'm kind of turning around stuff, like projects every sort of few weeks, and they're doing stuff sort of every sort of few weeks to every few months. So it tends to be more, at the minute, it tends to be more developers than designers from our perspective anyway.